See, huh? Much better. Mayim Rabim lo yuchel chabas es ha'avo. All right, Rabbi teaches us how to make a living. Mayim Rabim lo yuchel chabas es ha'avo. All of the craziness of Elam Hazeh cannot douse the innate love of the Nefesh Elokis. Meaning, even though the Nefesh Elokis comes into a body in Elam Hazeh and has to fend off the Nefesh Bahamis, etc., and deal with all sorts of interesting challenges in this world, the essential challenge being figuring out how to make a living, the Nefesh Elokis never loses its natural love for Kadosh Baruch. Now, as we mentioned, the Rebbe doesn't talk about this, but it's obvious to us that doesn't mean that the Nefesh Elokis is able to express itself as much as it would like to. But it doesn't lose its love. It still loves the Eibishter like it did before it came into the body. It just might be frustrated to the extent that it's in what's referred to as golus, and can't express itself in that conscious person to the extent that it would like to. But the love itself of the Nefesh Elokis is still very, very, very strong. And in the context of explaining that, the Rebbe also taught us why is it called tirdas parnasa, the troubles of making a parnasa. Well, we learned an important thing. In order to bring the bracha of the Eibishter down into Olam Hazeh Gashmi, into this physical world, you and I have to do physical activity. The source of our vitality is godliness. Right? The godliness imbued in the apple that you're eating. Right now, just as a mushal for that, if you were to talk to a nutritionist about the orange you're eating, what would the nutritionist say about that orange? What does that orange represent for a nutritionist?
Health, vitamins.
Which? One particular vitamin C, right? An orange is vitamin C to a nutritionist. It's not an orange, right? I mean, it is an orange, but it's vitamin C. That's what it is. Okay. Can you see the vitamin C in the orange when you eat the orange? No. Now, you can test in a laboratory whether it's there. I understand that, right? But you can't see it. When you eat an orange, you don't see the vitamin C. You don't see the vitamin, whatever it is that's in an apple, right? Something has vitamin D. I don't know what it was. Milk. Sunlight. What? Milk. Milk. Taka. Milk, vitamin D. Okay. So there's all sorts of vitamins and proteins and things that we need. Right? Meat is full of amino acid proteins that are very, very hard to get anywhere else. If you're a vegetarian, you have to figure out how to get those somewhere else. Soybeans or whatever you do, right? But the easiest way to get amino acid proteins is definitely just red meat. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Iron, you're deficient in iron, eat liver. Okay. Chopped liver, it's good, right? I mean, why wouldn't that be nice? Your doctor told you, you have to eat chopped liver every day. Chopped liver is delicious, right? Okay, fine. So we know that. Now, when you look at that stuff, you don't see it. You don't see the vitamin C in the orange. You don't see the vitamin D in the milk, though it might be on the package. You don't see the protein in the steak, and you don't see the iron in the liver, but you know it's in there. Okay, that's one level of the deeper reality of that food that you're eating. So you're eating some external piece of stuff, but what you really know is that it contains all sorts of other stuff that is really very, very important for you. Okay, go one level deeper, and what it really contains is the godly energy that you need. Can't see that either. Now, you can't find that in the laboratory, but it's there. The true vitamin in that which you're eating is the godly energy that gives it its existence, and you are bringing that godly energy into yourself by virtue of eating that food. That's what eating's all about. That's what the Rebbe explained to us yesterday. Right? So in order to get the shefa milamaila, you and I have to bring it down into what the Rebbe refers to as the lavush hateva, the garment of teva. Why? We're physical beings. So it would be very nice, we talked about it yesterday, it would be very nice if we were a little tired, and all we'd have to do is open up a siddur and say some tehillim, and that would give us energy. I mean, Tzad the Nefesh Elokis, that makes perfect sense. Tzad the Nefesh Bahamis in the goof, it doesn't work that way. What do you have to do if you're a little tired? Eat an apple, right? Close your eyes for 10 minutes, right? Do a little more exercise some other time. That'll probably help, right? They say exercise is good for the memory. I just keep forgetting to exercise, but other than that, that's it. They say it's good.
I was trying to lose weight and I started running. The only problem is I kept running into restaurants on.
Mhm. Yesterday, I must say that I was impressed. On my way to the mikveh, 6:10, I see some guy jogging in the neighborhood, and he looks like, sometimes you see those joggers who look like they're in shape. He looks like he's in shape. His legs are, jogger legs, and he, his body is put together. He's not over muscular. He looks like a jogger who can jog. Fine. So he's jogging. So I assume he's near the end of his jog because there's an American yeshiva 3 houses away, and he looked like an American bacher. So I thought he's probably finishing his jog and going to his yeshiva, which is fine. So I go to mikveh, go home, have a cup of orange juice and a piece of cake, check my watch. The bus is coming in 6 minutes. Go walk out to the bus. As I'm walking to the bus, this is half an hour, like 45 minutes later, he's coming down the hill, jogging away. And this guy did a serious run, and he was not slow. He was going at a pace. I was impressed. This guy was out there for 45 minutes. I don't know when he started. I have no clue, but I saw him with 45-minute intervals, jogging seriously. Not someone just sort of shuffling his feet. No. This guy was running. I was impressed. What can I say? Wow, this guy. I mean, I hope he does something else in life that's as good as that, because that isn't the only thing to be good at in life. But it was impressive, I must say. This guy was in pretty good shape. So, in order to bring the godly energy into us, you and I have to do physical activities. And part of that physical activity is make a living, right? Now, we could grow wheat and eat it, and we could grow apples and eat them, but generally that isn't how it works for most of us today. There are people who do that, but most people don't. Most of us are busy making money and trading the money for the stuff that we need to eat in order to sustain ourselves. And that also goes to our clothes and the house we need, etc., etc. Okay. So the Rebbe told us that in order to do that, we have to be very, very, very careful that we don't involve the essence of the most important aspects of our intellect and our emotional reality. That does not mean we do not use intellect in order to make a living. Of course, we have to use intellect in order to make a living. But, that being said, our essential intellect, our essential intellectual expression should be in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, number one. Our essential emotional relationship should be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, number one, and relative to emotions, with our family, number two. And you want to have some emotional relationship to your job, okay, that's fine, but not up there with those things, right? And that includes your friends and etc. In the second category. You want to make a third category before work, you can do that too. But certainly your emotional energy, your essential emotional energy should be available for your children. Your wife also, obviously, but your wife is going to be able to understand that you might be tired today because you worked hard, and she'll appreciate that. Your children don't understand that. They want you there. You have to be there. Emotionally, not just in body, in soul. Okay, that's a very, very important part of your shlichus in Olam Hazeh, is to bring up a generation of God-fearing people. You're their babysitter for a while. They're gods, and you babysit for a while. And your job is that when you finish babysitting, they're God-fearing people. Okay, that's a real job. It's no joke. Okay, well, that's what and you should use the utmost of your creativity in that job. More creativity used in that than in your job at work, figuring out how to, make a better ball bearing, or whatever it is that you do at work. Right? That doesn't mean we don't have to do things and work well. If someone's paying our salary, we have to work. If someone's not paying our salary, we still have to work because we want to make a living. Okay, but where's the true expression of it all? So that's what the Rebbe told us yesterday, right? And that is all based on the understanding that the second line on page Ayin Dalid Reish, right? Va'esek right in the middle of the line. Esek eina ela levush lebirchas havaya. Right, it's only a garment for the bracha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'loi, and not sha'esek hu makar parnasasa chas v'shalom. And not that the business is the source of his parnasa. Who's the source of his parnasa? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your parnasa depends more on how you daven on Rosh Hashanah than any other single thing during the year. That's what we're davening for on Rosh Hashanah. Physical sustenance. That means life. So that's your parnasa, that's all health, all sorts of things. Al pi Chassidus, we learn that on Tu B'Shvat, what should you daven for? The wheat for your matzah and Pesach and your esrog. Right? Tu B'Shvat. Chamisha Zar B'Shvat. Right? The fruit. Shebedugmas levushim, to just like garments, clothes, just like clothes. Hamarbe belevushim lehedif ma'uma. Someone who adds clothes, right? Gee, it's a little chilly today. I'll put on a sweater. No, maybe I'll put on 12. Well, 12 sweaters isn't going to help you. One good sweater will be just right. And now, especially with these new materials they have for those light jackets that you could wear in, minus 50. Okay. So wear one of those light jackets. That's a great levush. Don't wear 10 of them. 10 of them, you can't move. You'll freeze to death because you won't be able to get inside. Right? 10 big, heavy coats over 12 sweaters. Too many garments don't help. And not only do they not help, the Rebbe says, Mekalkel Yosef. Adarabah, the opposite is true. Mekalkel Yosef. They'll make it worse. Right? You need a pair of pants, you need a pair of shoes, you need some socks, you need a shirt. If it's cool, you need a sweater. If it's cold, you need a jacket. Okay. It's cold out, I'll wear 12 jackets. No, that's not going to help. Because that's not how levushim work. You find the proper levush for the proper situation, and you wear a minimal amount of them. Right? V'zeu diuk aloshin tirdes. So too the same in making a living. Going to the office for 15 hours isn't necessarily going to help you make a living any more than going for 8 or 9. Right? More levushim, more gafka, whatever parnasa the Eibishter has in mind for you, has in mind for you. Right? Now you have to go do it. You have to bring it down. Okay? But you should be able to bring it down in a way, and in fact you can bring it down in a way where there's also room for those other things that the Eibishter wants from us. Now there might be times of the year where that's not, but if you're an accountant, you're going to be doing 15-hour days in tax time. Okay, I mean, that's fine. If you're a farmer, you're going to be doing 15 hours a day in planting time and harvest time. That's part of the job. Okay. But not every day. Your whole life isn't. They talk about certain things being a reminder of the pastoral past of America. Pastoral past of America. They're like people were sitting on their porch, smoking their little pipe made out of a corn cob and relaxing. They're working very hard trying to make a living. A farmer works very hard, but he also has, in all fairness, the farmer has a few months every winter where he's probably doing nothing. Right? There's nothing to do in the farm in Nebraska in February. It's covered with snow. So what does he do? Okay, I don't know what the non-Jewish farmer does. The Jewish farmer, what does he do? That's his 4 months to spend with his family, learn Torah. Right? Okay. Is he going to work a little harder when it's spring and the first thaw and he's got to plow the field? Yeah, he's going to be working hard for a couple of weeks. And at the end, he's going to be working really hard. During the summer, probably just managing what's there most of the time. I don't know. I'm not a farmer, but I mean, we've all grown stuff in our backyards, and you don't have to sit there and watch the daffodil all day, right? Okay. So he's got time. There'll be times when he's working harder, and all of us are like that. But the ikr, what's the ikr in life, and what's tafel? What's the most important thing, and what's less important? And those priorities are absolutely essential in life. And the priorities are created by virtue of understanding where our parnasa comes from. It comes from the Eibishter. V'zeu diuk loshen tirdeisai parnasa. That's why the Alter Rebbe uses the word, the bother of parnasa. That's when the Mayim is really Mayim Rabim. That's when it's really turbulent. That's when the life in this world might drown me. When I have problems relative to parnasa. What does that mean? Dagam shubamatzav namuch, that even if the person is in a low state, the Rebbe says, matzav is a situation, namuch, low. He's in a low state in terms of his appreciation of reality. Sheyesh lei, that he has tirdos parnasa, that he has worries and troubles and tribulations relative to his parnasa. Well, what's the problem? I understand some people do. Well, the Rebbe explains. What does that show? Shezem mara, that this shows asher einu mizbeinin kedeboy aliba denafshe. She'einu mizbeinin, he doesn't contemplate kedeboy as he should, right? The word boy is ask, require, want. In this case, it's require, as is required. Aliba denafshe, based on his own soul. In other words, based on who he is, what his situation is. And what's he not thinking about enough? Shabir chasavai yitashe. There's the brach of the Eibishter that gives wealth. So what is he worried about? Do what you have to do it honestly, and the Eibishter will make sure that what you're supposed to get, you'll get. And what does it say in a Yom Yom? You're not going to get 1 cent more. It doesn't say anything but less. It's 1 cent more. So do what you have to do it honestly, do it in a way in which it's allowing you to really do why you were sent to Elam Hazeh, which is to reveal godliness, right? And fine, life will work. That's why the Rebbe calls it tirdos parnasa. So even a person who's on that low, what the Rebbe refers to as a low state, where he's tarud, he's bothered by parnasa. It takes up a lot of space in his head and in his heart. Mikol mokem, hine gama tirdos, even this bother, which is not coming from a place that should be, lo yuchlil chabes chas shomes av, can't douse the ava mesuteris, the hidden love shebekol echad miyisrael that's in every single Jew. That's the headline about Mayim Rabim. How to make a living. How to deal with, what we were talking about yesterday, probably the single most difficult challenge that people have in Elam Hazeh. Most people, some people don't. Most people do. How am I going to figure out how to make a living? I'm going to do that. Okay. We talked about it yesterday. Am I going to sacrifice my life to make a living? That's absolutely absurd. It's the only reason I have to make a living is so I can have a life. So am I giving up my life to make a living? I don't know, but I need a living to have a life. So focus on life. I have to figure out how to make a living. And as a man, especially, even though I understand the world's changing a little, but still, ultimately, as a man, you have to realize that you have a certain responsibility to provide for your family, right? And that's something that on shidduchim, right? If someone asks about, one of the questions that people ask about young men in shidduchim, is he going to take making a living seriously? Meaning, is he going to be the kind of person who makes sure that providing for his family is something that he takes seriously? Well, that's a real question. Because some people might say, he just floats around in a tzilus all day. And especially when you're talking about that creature that most people call balei tshuva, right? Maybe, okay, now he's like, God will provide for anything and everything, and I'm just going to sit around, right? It's a story about a young man who went to meet his prospective father-in-law. And, he'd been learning in yeshiva his whole life. So his father-in-law asked him, what about this, what about this, what about this? And then at one point his father said, how are you going to make a living? He said, well, God will provide. God will provide a living. I said, okay. Then he asked him a few more questions about, sort of more gashmistic things. It was, God will provide. God will provide. Fine. Okay. Nice meeting you. So then he was talking to a friend of his in shul the next day, the father. And he said, I met my prospective son-in-law. Oh, very nice. I was a very nice kid. Right? Yeah, and what was your impression? He said, well, the thing I liked about him best is he thinks I'm God. As parents, we help. Right? We help. Young couples get help from their parents. Right? The minhag here in Eretz Yisrael, it's different everywhere, right? Because it also depends on, how financial reality works. That, until fairly, still to a great degree, but not as much as there was. There was a lot more money in America than there was in Eretz Yisrael, right? It's evening out a little, America's getting poorer and Israel's getting a little more prosperous. But when I got married, so there were 3 cars on our street. On the street that we lived on the first couple of years of marriage, there were only 3 cars. And who do they belong to? American Olim, who bought them with rights. Because the car was half price if you were an Ole. All the taxes, so we bought our first car. It was ridiculous to buy a used car. You get a new car because you'd get a new car for the same price as a used car. So we paid $6,000 for the Subaru station wagon, the 1982 Subaru station wagon that we bought. Right now, I wish I could do that again. Right? Okay. Why? No taxes. Fine. So and there were 3 cars. There was our Subaru. Our friends, the Jablinowitzes, who lived down the block, American Olim, they had and the Zippels across the street had a Peugeot station wagon. All 3 American Olim who bought with rights. No one else had a car on the street. Right? Now you can't find parking anywhere. Right? Because Baruch Hashem, people are making a living, you can afford cars. It's a different world here. Absolutely different world. Okay. Fine. But what's the minhag here? And it's a beautiful minhag. What's the minhag here? Is that when a young couple gets married, this is in Lubavitch. I'm telling you in Lubavitch. I don't know how other things work. There are other places where it's much more difficult. You have to buy an apartment, which is very, very difficult. But in Lubavitch, how's it work? So the young couple has their rent paid for a year by their parents, and their parents buy them all the appliances they need. Nice new appliances. They'll get a new fridge, and they'll get a new oven, and they'll get a new a washing machine and a dryer, and what else do you need? They'll get a bedroom set, and they'll get what else do you need? Anything else? That's about it, right? Bedroom set and
Couch, maybe.
What?
Maybe a couch.
A couch, yeah, a dining room table, and a couch for the living room. That they'll be set up so that they can live very, very nicely. But after that, what? Figure it out. Go figure it out here. The first year he's gonna probably be said. The Rebbe wants someone the first year after marriage, at least the first year, but certainly first year to sit and learn in Kaplan. Right? That's what Rebbe asked young Lubavitch men to do: sit and learn in Kaplan the first year. So they're not going to be making very much money. She might be able to work or not, depending on where she, how old she is, right? Etc. But they don't really need very much. Why? Well, everything's taken care of. They have their rent taken care of, and they have everything they need, so they have to pay a few bills and some food. Okay? And that way they can get to know each other in a nice, calm year without a lot of angst about anything. Okay? And then what? Figure it out. Now, if they need help, of course the parents are going to help them, right? Oh, no. You got married on the 6th and it's now the 5th, I'm done. 5th the next year, no. But that's the way it works. Okay. And do they figure it out? I don't know. I mean, we married off 10 and they figured it out. I don't know. They seem to have figured it out. I mean, they're not coming to me for loans. As a matter of fact, one of my weddings, I borrowed some money from one of my sons. He had just gotten a windfall from the American government from the baby. American government pays it might pay it in America also, I'm not sure, but overseas citizens get, our day was $1,000, but now I think it's up to $1,400 for children up to the age of 18. The American government will give a yearly stipend. It's a tax rebate based on the fact that overseas Americans are probably paying higher taxes where they are than they would be in America, and so the American government gives them a break. It's called a tax rebate, but it's based on the children you have. You can't. You only if you earn up to a certain amount of money. If you earn more than that, you don't get it because you don't need it. But if you're middle class income, it is true a middle class income in Eretz Yisrael pays a lot more taxes than that same middle class income. So the American government helps you even that out, which is very sweet of them. So now, this son has 10 kids, under 18. He's doing pretty well for the American government every year. He works very, very hard. He and his wife both work very hard. But is it a good idea? Should Americans do that? I have no idea. If I were American, would I be upset that my money's going to some frum guy in Israel? Maybe. In the meantime, it's there. So what, I'm not going to take it? I'm going to take it, right? Like Trump said, right? You made the loopholes. I'm just taking advantage of them, right? You wanted not to be a loophole, so change the tax law. I have no problem. But in the meantime, it's there, so I'll take advantage of it. That's how he won his first debate with Hillary. Tirdas Parnasa. But Baruch Hashem, in most cases, the Eibishter gives us those things that we need. And most of us live very blessed lives. Are there people who have very, very hard lives? Yes, there are. Do we understand that? No, we don't. Now the Rebbe is going to continue. Mehine, hachidish b'zeh. The chiddush, the unique idea, meaning the fact that I have to be told this. Shlomo Melech tells us, Mayim Rabim lo yuchul lechabes es ha'av, that the Mayim Rabim can't destroy the love, can't extinguish the fiery love. Okay. Well, why do I have to be told that? It must be, there's a chiddush. It must be that if he didn't tell me that, I might think that the Mayim Rabim could extinguish the fiery love of the soul. Right? So that's what the Rebbe is now going to explain to us. But chiddush, the novel idea, Shemayim Rabim lo yuchol lechabes es ha'ava, the Mayim Rabim can't extinguish the love. Why do I have to be told that? Do you do us? Now the Rebbe says something very, very fascinating. And we're going to have to sit back and learn outside about a famous reality called shviras hakeli, the breaking of vessels, which probably people have heard about because it's pop Kabbalah, but it's real. It's a real idea, and we have to understand it. The Yadua, Rabbi says something very, very fascinating. The shoresh Mayim Rabim, the source in godliness of Mayim Rabim, the source in godliness of the fact that life in Olam Hazeh is a challenge. Shuhu tirdas parnasa, hu bebechinas hatoyu, comes from the world called the world of toyu, the world of chaos. Well, but let's see the words, then we'll explain all this. We'll just get the equation, then we'll explain the equation. Hu bechinas hatoyu, shekadam letikun, that precedes, meaning is a higher level of godly reality than the world called Olam Hatikun. Olam Hatikun is that world that we've run into before called Olam Hatzilus. Where's our board? We don't have our board anymore. Okay, I'll have to get a board in here. Olam Hatzilus. Olam Hatzilus is called Olam Hatikun. What's Olam Hatzilus? On the simplest level, Olam Hatzilus is the source of your neshama. When you say every morning, neshama shenasat be taharahi, it's tahar, that means it's coming from Olam Hatzilus. Atabarasa, you created it, it came through Olam Habriya. Atayatzarta, you formed it, it came into Olam HaYetzira. Atanafachta bi, you blew it into me, it came all the way down into Olam HaSiyah and is clothed in our body and gives us vitality down here in Olam HaSiyah. And that's the journey of the neshama from Atzilus down into your body in Olam HaSiyah. And you say it every morning. Third bracha of Birchas HaShach. Okay. That's the revealed source of your neshama. What's the source of the Mayim Rabim? What's the source of the reality that Olam Hazeh is as challenging as it is? A higher place in Elokus. An event, so to speak. And we can't talk about higher and lower, and we can't talk about before and after in terms of godly reality, but we have to because that helps us understand things. Right? So to speak, before there's a reality called Olam Hatzilus, there's a reality called Olam Hatoyu, the world of chaos. What event happens in that world? It's not that it happened, it's a world beyond time. The breaking of the vessels. Shviras hakeli. Okay, so let's keep reading a couple more lines, then we'll go back and see what that means and how that works. Tezeu shenikroim Mayim Rabim, that which they're called Mayim Rabim, liyosem Rabim, because they are multitudinous. There's many. In other words, they hide Hashem Echad. And why are they Rabim? Gam mitzad shor Hashem u'mekayron. Also in terms of their source being Olam Toyu, the place where separation and multiplicity comes into being. In Kedusha, up there, it's all godliness. But as that reality emanates down here, it expresses itself in that reality that we call Kalipa. So now, again, let's read a few more words and then we'll come back and explain what the Rebbe is saying. V'zewa Ravusa, and this is the Ravusa is Yiddish for is Aramaic for Chiddush. And this is the Chiddush, this is the novel idea, that which Shlomo Melech has to teach us, Shemayim Rabim lo yuchlu chavas esava, that the many waters can't douse the love, v'naris lo yishtafua, and the rivers can't wash it away. Why? Why is this a Chiddush? Dagam, that even though Sheshara Shemayim Rabim, that the source of the Mayim Rabim, v'naris, and this stream of consciousness and physical things that the Rebbe talked about yesterday, hu bebechinas toyu, it's coming from a place called Olam Toyu, shekadem letikun, that precedes tikun. That means it's a more powerful level of reality. And that's why you might find your Nefesh Bahamis more powerful in this world than your Nefesh Elokis, and it's easier to listen to your Nefesh Bahamis than listen to your Nefesh Elokis, because of its source in a higher place. Shekadim Latikun, that's before Elam Atikun, the world of fixedness. Tikun means fixed. Shorish Nefesh Elokis, the source of the Nefesh Elokis, Neshama Shenasat Bi Taharihi. So even though the source of the Mayim Rabim is a higher place in godliness than the source, and we're going to talk about that, don't worry, than the source of the Nefesh Elokis, Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Lo Yuchlu Chavas Chas V'Shalom, it's not able to douse Chas V'Shalom Esa'ava Sheba Nefesh Elokis. It's not able to douse. So then the Rebbe is going to have to explain why not. But the Chiddush in what Shlomo Melech says is that even though there's a power called Mayim Rabim, which ultimately is more powerful than the Nefesh itself in terms of its source in Elokus, that can't douse the love of the Nefesh Elokis. I have to tell you that because you would think it would. Because you'd say, if I would just tell you that there's something called Mayim Rabim and there's something called the innate love of the soul, you would say, well, the soul comes from a place called Elam Atzilus, and this Mayim Rabim comes from a place called Elam Atayu, and Elam Atayu is a higher, therefore more powerful place than Elam Atzilus, so it must be that the Mayim Rabim can wipe out the neshama. Along comes Shlomo Melech and says, it should, but it doesn't. So then we're going to have to figure out, Sataka, why doesn't it? That's the next part of this paragraph. Okay. So now, what did the Rebbe just say? Was this all just sort of magic? What's Elam Atayu? What's Shviras HaKelim? Most people, when they talk, if I'll ask you, I assume you'll probably give me the answer. What process is it that you run across in Chassidus a lot that helps us understand the fact that godly light seems to be hidden in this world? Sims. Beautiful, right? Then the diminishing of the light such that it's gradually diminished to such an extent that it ends up being clothed in vessels that are powerful enough to conceal the light in them. So you and I do not see the godly energy in the apple. There's godly energy in that apple. We don't see it. We know it's there, right? Okay, we know it's there. Why? Well, because we've learned enough Chassidus to understand that there's godly energy in the apple. Okay, I get that. But I don't see it. Why? Tzimtzum, because that godly energy has to be diminished to such an extent that it's completely concealed by the apple. Right? There are worlds where it's less concealed. You go up to the world above our world, so you'll run into an angel, and what's giving that angel vitality? Godly energy, and what will you be able to see in Elam HaYetzirah, so to speak, through the angel? You'll be able to see the godly reality powering that angel. It's not like a battery inside, right? Because the godly energy is powering every metaphysical molecule of that angel. Okay, we say that, but it's as if you'll see the godliness in the angel. Okay, you go up to a higher level, Elam Abriya, angels that are even closer to their source, higher levels of angels. Chayus Ve'fani HaKedesh, what will you see? They're like a clear glass where you see completely that which is in it, the godly power, the godly energy that's powering that angel. That's what you'll see. Okay, but that and what's happening in that process? So it's true the kli is getting a little thicker, but also the light is getting a little more diminished because the more powerful light would blow the kli apart. No, it has to slowly but surely be diminished ad kei kach that it can be clothed in the lower vessel. The mashal for that in Chassidus, the intellect of the brilliant teacher as he's teaching the simple student. What must he do to his intellect? Does he reveal the full power of his intellect to that simple student? Well, he could, but then of course the student wouldn't understand anything. There'd be no revelation in the world of the student. There would just be confusion in the world of the student. What does the teacher do? The teacher takes his intellect and is mitzam same his intellect, diminishes his intellect. It's still the same intellect, same idea. You can't turn it into a different idea. Say the same idea. You have to say the same idea in words that the uninitiated will understand. Then he's revealed this idea to this person who up until this point didn't understand ideas like that. So now there's been revelation in that person's intellectual reality. Were he to reveal the full extent of his intellectual knowledge, the teacher, student won't understand anything. There'll be no revelation whatsoever. There's confusion. By virtue of toning it down and clothing it in mashalim, clothing it in parables, etc., so then the student can understand the idea. Right? That's what the Rebbeim do for us all the time when they teach us Chassidus. Right? Okay. Fine. So now what's shiur kelim? Tzimtzum itself won't necessarily give you and I the experience of what you and I call yesh, separateness. It might give us the feeling of distance from our source, but it won't necessarily completely conceal our source. What's a mashal for that? Starlight. That star is who knows how far away, right? So now, you and I don't really see starlight. We just see the star, right? Now, well, that's obviously not true. Obviously, the light from that star is reaching our eyes, or else we couldn't see the star, right? We know that. Okay, but we don't see it like we see sunlight. Sunlight, between the sun and us, the whole area in between is full of that sunlight, because the sun's close enough so that the light is very, very powerfully revealed to us. Starlight, well, if you've ever been somewhere without pollution on a night when there's no moon, right, and no city lights, and looked up at the sky, so it's just blanketed with stars. Right? I mean, you see clusters, it's blanketed with stars. But interesting enough, you can't see the hand in front of your face. There's all sorts of light up there, so to speak, but it's not reaching you. Well, of course it's reaching me. How do I see the light? How do I see the star? Well, it is reaching your eye, the Seder. But what are you aware of? Interesting. All you're aware of is the existence of the star. You're not aware of the existence of starlight. Right? Sunlight, you're very powerfully aware of. Whoa, it's bright. Starlight is so diminished by the time it gets to you and I that we don't really experience any existence of starlight. I mean, if you've ever been out in the middle of the desert, and again, there has to be no clouds, no pollution. Also, best in the winter, because in the summer, any desert, so there's going to be a lot of dust in the air because it hasn't rained forever, right? But it has to be the right time of year. No city lights, because those lights are enough to diminish your ability to see the stars. As dark as you can get, and you'll see, just the sky will be blanketed with stars. But interesting enough, you can't see the hand in front of your face. It's pitch black where you are. Anybody ever experienced that? You've been out in the desert? Look, okay. Some of the best stargazing in the world is in the desert that's about 25 minutes away from here. Just go into the Judean desert, and on some clear winter night, and you will be absolutely astounded at what you see up there. It has to be when there's no moon. It has to be near the end or the beginning of a month. If there's a full moon up there, then you can read by the full moon on a clear night, right? So that's a really interesting experience, because what do you see? You're just seeing the source of the light. You're not really seeing the light. in terms of our experience of it, right? Okay. So as much as there's tzimtzum, that's not necessarily concealing the source. There's no light, but the source is still evident to you and I. So that's a mashal of how tzimtzum won't necessarily, tzimtzum will help us experience a certain distance from the source, but it won't necessarily completely obliterate our experience of the source. We still might be aware of the fact there is a source. I can't see the light, but I know there's a source of it. Starlight. Okay, that's just a mashal for it. What's shviras hakelim? So shviras hakelim is the source of that experience of independence that you and I have, that which you and I call yeshus. Why? How does it work? Okay. There's a Mishnah. There's a Mishnah in Masechah Shabbos, which is a very interesting Mishnah, which teaches us the nature of kelim, the nature of vessels. The Mishnah says like this. You often from G-dly you learn panemius, right? What's the Mishnah? The Mishnah is that if I were to walk out with a minimum, if I were to walk outside on Shabbos, not Reuven will do this. Reuven will do all these averas. I don't want to do that. Reuven walks outside with this plate, walks from his house, which is Reshusa Yochid, into the street, which is Reshusa Rabim. So Reuven has just transgressed a Torah prohibition by carrying this plate from one domain to another domain, right? We all know that. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's no Eruv, right? Fine. Reuven takes a split pea. You know those little split peas that you make pea soup with? Okay, he takes a split pea in his hand from his house into the street. Mutter deraisa. Why? Because it doesn't have a proper measure of food. It's not really considered in existence in any way, shape, or form. Why? Well, doesn't have what we call in halacha shiur, right? A measure of food. It has to be in that halacha context. We need a kageres, which is a big date, right? Okay, it has to be something pretty big. Okay, fine. So that split pea isn't enough. So that's mutter deraisa. It's also d'rabbanan. Not allowed to do it, right? So that in Hilchos Shabbos is called potter of alaser. He's potter, meaning he's not doesn't get any punishment for this because he didn't transgress the Torah law. But it's also d'rabbanan. So in Hilchos Shabbos, when it says potter, it means you're not allowed to do this, but it's not an issur d'oraisa, it's an issur d'rabbanan. Okay, that's the second case in the Mishnah. Put the split pea on the plate and walk outside. Fascinating halacha. Potter af al hakli. He's potter even for carrying the plate. When he carried the plate without the pea on it, it's a machlekes whether he's chayav misa, it's only a lav. Okay, but let's say it's a chayav misa like every other. He's obligated the death penalty in beis din. Not every position holds that. Okay, but we'll to make the extreme. He's obligated the death penalty in beis din. Whoa. He puts a split pea on the plate, same plate, and walks outside. Mutter deraisa, not a mutter, minatara. Why? The Mishnah explains. Shakli tefela lo. The kli is tafel, secondary to what's in it. What's a kli about? A kli is all about revealing what's in it. That's what a kli is about. So if I were to bring you, Amnon gives me kelim. He used to, not so much anymore because we get to the room in different times. He used to always give me the kelim, give me a plate, just give me a knife. Then he realized I never used the knife since all the food's all soft. I have soft food, so us old guys we can chew the food. It's nice that they give us soft food here. Okay. Right. So, but what's that kli all about? Really, when I walk away from the dining room, what have I got? Oh, I see there's lasagna for lunch. No one's going to say to me, oh, I see there's plates and lasagna for lunch. No plates for lunch. The plate's buckled with the lasagna. I just can't have I'm not going to put the lasagna on the table or in my lap, so I need a plate for the lasagna, right? But what am I taking out of there? Yesterday, that vegetable thing, and I didn't take the bread part, vegetable thing and a salad and some interesting eggs sliced up, okay? That's what was on the plate. The plate's completely buckled to that. Right? Someone looks and says, "Oh, what do you? Oh, I see. There's plates and knives and forks and eggplant for lunch, huh?" No, it's eggplant stuff for lunch, because the kli is buckled to what's in it. When is the kli buckled to what's in it? When it's whole. When it's a kli that is shalem. What if it's a broken kli? Oh, so then it's a completely different reality. What's an example? Okay, the words on the page. The words on this page, what are they? What are oisius? Oisius are kalim. They're vessels. What do they reveal? An idea. Light. Intellectual light. An idea. How do you reveal the idea on this page? You order the letters in a certain order. Right? And if they're ordered in that order, then they will mamela. You don't have to do anything. You have to go like abracadabra and no. As soon if a non-Jewish guy in Bergen Press, because that's where all if you look in the front of Sifrei Maimarim, they're all printed in Bergen Press. Some press in Bergen, might be called Bergen Press also, in Bergen, New Jersey. Okay, fine. It's whatever name of the press is, right? So that company. Now, who works in that company? In the old days, before computers, who was putting those letters? Those metal letters in the slots in the place where you would then, run the page through and stamp the page with that imprint. Who was doing that? Might be some non-Jewish guy, right? Who works in the printing press, right? Does he understand the Chassidus? No, there's not a clue what he's doing, right? But he was told to put it in that order, and he knows how to do that, right? And by virtue of putting it in that order, fixing the kalim in such an order, they mamela reveal light. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't even understand the light that he's revealing, right? But what comes out? This page. And what's on this page? So if any of you were to tell me what's on this page is 16 shins, 12 mems, 42 lameds, 12 yuds, so of course we'd lock you up in a padded room because you're a maniac. Now, what you said is true, but that's not what's on this page. What's on this page? An idea. There's an idea on this page. What's revealing the idea? The kalim. What are those kalim called? Oisius. These are oisius, and so there's different levels of oisius. Oisius of machshava, oisius of dibur. These are oisius of ksav, of maisa. Right? They're actual physical oisius. Okay, so there they are. And they reveal an idea. And mamela, they reveal the idea. When they're in a state of tikkun. When they're in a fixed state, they reveal the idea. What don't they reveal? Themselves. What are you not aware of? How many shins, how many lamets, how many mens? You couldn't care less. Right? What's on this page? An idea. That's what they're revealing. And they're completely bottled to that idea. The letters on this page are completely bottled to that idea. All they're interested in is you understand the idea on this page. If they're interested in anything. Okay. Now, let's take a pair of scissors. Cut along each line. Cut in between each letter. Now, theoretically, you could cut each letter up, right? Which is really shrius akalim, okay, but we don't have to go that far. Now, I put a pile of the letters on all the letters that are on this on this page in a state of tikkun are now in a state of shvira. They're now broken. I put them on the table. I pick up a letter. What does it say? I am an aleph. What does he reveal to me? Himself. What doesn't he reveal? The intellectual light that's the true purpose of his existence. What's he really supposed to reveal? Well, I don't know where that aleph is on the page, but whatever word that aleph is part of, he's supposed to be part of a word, which is part of a sentence, which is part of a paragraph, which is part of a page, and that page is teaching you and I a certain idea. But this aleph is not fixed. He's broken. So what does he reveal? Himself. His own yeshus. That's all he reveals. Which is really an amazing idea. You pick up, I'm a lamed. You're not a lamed, you liar. You're a lamed in the word, I'm looking, lo yuchlu. You're part of the word yuchlu. In the statement, Mayim Rabim lo yuchlu l'chabes es ava. You're a liar. He says, no, I'm not a liar. I'm a lamed. Mm-hmm. Well, in a state of brokenness, that's all he is. His own yesh, his own being. Right? In a state of fixedness, what is he? bottle to the or that he's all about revealing. Right? So now, English is different than Lashon HaKodesh, interestingly enough. You can't do this in Lashon HaKodesh. As a matter of fact, it's exactly the opposite. But if you've ever seen that piece of paper that was put out by, I'm afraid to say the word, I feel embarrassed saying the word, but I'll say it. Harvard Education School, I think it was, put out a piece of paper years ago, and I remember remember that when you came out of the old Zal in David Yellen, there was that glass case right across on the wall, right? And it had red velvet or something behind it, and it would look like this really fancy thing, and like there was never anything in there, right? So someone put in there once this interesting piece of paper. What was the piece of paper? It was a paragraph. And you would read it. You'd say, well, it's up there, and you'd read it. What was interesting about the paragraph? You didn't even notice. In English, again, this is the opposite in Lashon HaKodesh, because the whole word is the middle of the word in Lashon HaKodesh, right? Every word in that paragraph, the first letter and the last letter, right? The first letter and the last letter were proper. The middle letters were jumbled. You didn't even notice. Because when you read, all you're doing is reading the first letter and the last letter. You're paying scant attention to the letters in the middle because you don't have to in English. So if you saw, English, it would be E, then maybe G, N, L, S, an I, and H. But you'd read English and you don't even notice that the middle letters are out of order when you read it. And at the bottom it says, go look again at the order of the letters that you just read the whole paragraph without even noticing. Right? Okay. But they're in some order so that you read it properly. And what's the order that's necessary? The first letter and the last letter, evidently, which is interesting. Lashon HaKodesh is completely different. The whole cookie is the middle, right? The resh and the chaf and the base, if they're in different orders, so it's either barech, so it's bracha, or it's rechev, or it's what we find bachor, firstborn. It'll all depend on. There's 6 different variables as to what it could be. Most 3 letters don't have 6 variables that are actually words. There are a few. Have 6 different ways that they could be read. Okay. That's when letters are in a state of tikkun. When they're in a state of tikkun, they don't reveal themselves. They reveal the idea that they are ultimately supposed to reveal. Their whole existence is about revealing that idea. One other example of the same thing, I'll say it quickly. A jigsaw puzzle. A jigsaw puzzle. What have you got? 1,000 pieces. Okay. Now, when those 1,000 pieces are in a state of tikkun, they're all put where they're supposed to be. And then you frame it and put it on a wall. When someone walks in this room and looks and sees a picture on that wall, what will he not yet know when he sees that picture?
Individual pieces.
Right, he won't know it's a jigsaw puzzle. He'll just see the picture. Right? As he gets closer, you'll notice those little, you notice because there's little lines in between. But you won't notice it from over here. Right? My wife is a big, she hasn't done a jigsaw puzzle for years and years and years. But when she was younger, she used to do a lot, younger meaning while we were married. While she was bringing up children, she used to do a lot of jigsaw puzzles, right? Because often nursing children, she would do a jigsaw puzzle, right? And she would do 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles. What did our children get her for her 60th birthday? Right? Which is in about another 12 years, right? What did they get her for that? They just decided to do it early. What did they get her for that? It was such a beautiful gift. They got her a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, which was a picture of all of the grandchildren, and it's framed, right? It's so beautiful, such a great idea for her, right? Okay. So what don't you know? You don't know it's a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so fine. So the jigsaw, when all the pieces are in the right place, what do you see? The big picture. What don't you see? The individual pieces. Okay, when you buy the jigsaw puzzle, it's in a box, and all the individual pieces are scattered all over the box. When you pick up a piece, what does it say? I'm yellow. I'm green. I'm brown and green. I'm blue. I'm blue and white. Whatever, right? What is it not saying? I'm part of the sky with a cloud. I'm part of the grass in front of the castle. I'm part of the sun that's in the sky. It doesn't say that. It just says I am. Broken pieces. What does broken vessels produce? Yeshus.
Geishas or
State of independent existence. Right? That's Shviras Kalim. Shviras Kalim is that which helps you and I, meaning the so to speak, the reason for that event is that you and I will experience reality the way we experience it, and hopefully come to the point where we realize that, wait a minute, these little pieces of reality are ultimately all part of a bigger picture. What helps us when you do a jigsaw puzzle? Anybody here do jigsaw puzzles? Anybody ever like do? Okay, so yeah, you like. It's funny because my wife loves it, and I just never had the patience for it. I used to do it with my kids. I mean, with kids, you sit on the floor and you do a jigsaw puzzle, but it was never my thing. It was their thing. My wife loves jigsaw puzzles, right? So I loved. I haven't seen her do one to such an extent that she used to have them on this big cardboard thing that she would then move carefully till finally. She found it, and I bought it because I was in America, this felt thing that had like a big sort of balloon at the end. You would blow up this thing at the end, and you'd do the jigsaw puzzle on the felt on the table, and then, right, you got 500 pieces done. Okay, but you can't sit there to finish 1,000-piece puzzle in one sitting, right? It takes weeks. So you'd roll it up, right, and tie it up, and we put out, because how many times in our marriage did she put away the piece of cardboard? She's 486 pieces in an 1,000-piece puzzle, and one of the kids knocked it over and wiped out all her work, and she'd come and go, oh. So finally we found this thing, and that did away with that issue. Or we all had to stay 4 miles away from that part of the bedroom where the big huge piece of cardboard was precariously perched on something. Okay, fine. At one point, she decided she'll put it in my bed and I'll sleep on the couch. But, okay, so when you do the jigsaw puzzle, what do? So the first thing you do is you look for the pieces that are the 4 pieces that are the corners. That's easy. Then you look at the ones that are straight, right? And so that's the misgeret. That's the sort of framework of the whole thing. Okay, so that's relatively easy. And then what do you start doing? Colors. You divide, you mix all the greens, all the yellows, all the blues, all the browns, right? You put them all in colors. Okay, now what do? You want to put it together. There's one thing you do before you start putting it together. You might have done this earlier, but now you really have to do it. What do?
Take the picture.
You take a picture. I have a picture. Where's the picture? How do I know what I'm building? Oh, there's a picture on the box. There's always a picture on the box, right? You can't do a jig. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where, so then you have a green. You say, oh, well, there's a field over here, so all the greens are over on this side, right? There's a castle over here, so that color of brown is over there. There's dirt over there, that color of brown is down. You look at the picture on the box. Then you have a good idea as to where the pictures fit, the little pieces fit. Oh, that's Alamazah. There's a picture on the box. What's the picture on the box? It's called the Torah. Where do the pieces fit? What are these little pieces of reality that you and I experience all day long? Where do they fit? Where does 9:30 in the morning fit? Say Shema Kriya Shema. That's its place in the puzzle. You better have said Kriya Shema by 9:30 in the morning, else you missed the mitzvah. Okay. Where does the 15th of Tishrei fit? Oh, Lulav, Esrog, Sukkah. Like that's that part of the picture. That's the picture on the box. How would I know where that piece of time fits in this whole thing? I wouldn't have a clue, right? Oh, but there's a picture on the box. And the picture on the box tells me how to fix the broken kalim. Just like the picture on the box tells you how to fix the broken kalim in a puzzle, because all those are broken kalim. Those are all broken pieces. So how do you make a puzzle? Tachlis, in the factory, how do they make a puzzle? They start with a picture, piece of paper, right? They have a picture. They put that picture on very thin little cardboard, and then what do? This thing comes down and cuts it into 1,000 pieces. Boom. Shviras kalim. Right? The big picture has just been destroyed completely. And now some sucker's going to spend, $5.99, $6.99, $8.99, $3,022. I have no idea how much puzzles cost anymore, right? They used to always be able to, in the old days, they used to put the price in the corner on the box in the puzzle. They can't do that anymore because inflation, it's going to go up, up, up. So, okay. But in the old days, everything had a price and it stayed that way for years. Okay. Fine. So you pay whatever you pay, and you get the broken pieces, and you turn the broken pieces into something fixed. And when it's fixed, what do you no longer see? The pieces. You see the big picture. That's what the Eibishter wants from Eilam Hazeh. That's what Shviras HaKelim is about. The Eibishter turns Eilam Hazeh into a place where you and I are aware of the individual reality of all of creation. And our job is to put all those pieces of reality together the way they fit, al-pi the picture on the box, which is called the Torah, and see, and what's the picture? The box is the Torah and it paints the picture. And what's the picture ultimately? It's called Dir B'Tachtonim, it's called Mashiach, right? That's the picture on the box. How do we make that picture? Well, put the pieces where the pieces are supposed to go, and once you finish the puzzle, so then the picture shows up. And that's called Gula Mitis Vashleim. And that's Shviras HaKelim. Now, where did that happen, so to speak? That happened above Eilam Atzilus. Because what's Eilam Atzilus? What did the Eibishter do in Eilam Atzilus? Eilam Atzilus is where the Eibishter fixed it himself. He put all the pieces together so that now there's revealed godliness in Eilam Atzilus. But the worlds below are all worlds of Yeshut. Worlds where there is a certain aspect of existence that is not him. Eilam Atzilus is him. Eilam Rabim is not God. I mean, it's created by God. It's powered by godly reality. But that angel you see, it's not God. It's an angel. It's a created thing. Eilam Atzilus is the Eibishter. It's 10 spheres. It's 10 different aspects of him that all exist in a state of absolute harmony. So even though there might be 10, but those 10 pieces all fit together in a state of absolute oneness. Eilam Bria, angels. Those angels are bottled. The angel you meet in Eilam Bria is not interested in talking about himself in any way, shape, or form. He probably doesn't even know what the word I is. All he wants to talk about is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But he is a created being that is separate, a separate existence from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But he's in a state of bittul. Then you get to Eilam Eitzira where there's a little less bittul and a little more yesh, and then you get down to this world where there's naturally kimat no bittul whatsoever, and all yesh. What does reality down here say? I am. And what does it not allow? Anything else to be there. This table says, this is my space, do not enter. You're not allowed in there. Oh, wow. You're a yesh. Yeah, he is. My own hands won't even let each other into that space. They're both me. They won't even let the other hand in that space. In metaphysical reality, more give and take. Where do you see that in your life? The way your thoughts can intermingle, and they're not as physical as your hands, right? So thoughts can sort of mingle together and merge together. So a thought about this idea and a thought about that idea, they can meet and allow space for each other and actually become one together. And you can say, oh, well, that really helps explain that, doesn't it? That's really interesting. In Gashmias, separate reality. Where does that separateness come from? Yes, Tzimtzum. Even more, Shviras HaKelim. And that's Toyu. So where does the Mayim Rabim come from? Toyu, which is above Tikkun. So how can it be that the Mayim Rabim doesn't wipe out the love? It should. It's coming from a higher place in Elokus. Just like down here, without hard work, your Nefesh Abamis will completely wipe out your Nefesh Elokis. Won't wipe it out. The Nefesh Elokis is still going to love the Eibishter, but your Nefesh Abamis will have complete and total control. You'll be a slave to your Nefesh Abamis without real work down here, right? Nefesh Abamis seems to be a little more powerful than Nefesh Elokis, right? Doesn't it seem that way? Right? Tikkun and Silas are the same. Eilam HaTikkun is Eilam HaTzikus. This is the world that you and I are ultimately supposed to turn into, Eilam HaTikkun. You and I are supposed to be mitakein this world, put all the pieces together so we see the big picture. Which you can in your life. What can you see in the little events that are happening to you? The big picture. You see the godliness in it. Okay, you've now brought about tikkun in the world
So
of
it
brokenness.
was already individual parts in
Hmm?
Tohu, no? Tohu individual parts. Then in
Tohu brings about, so to speak, up there it's all kedusha. Up there it's all holiness.
I'm just trying to understand. It was individual, then big picture, and then again.
And then the
pieces.
right, then the response, the way that the way it says in the oifen that godliness descends into this world, the way that godliness descends into this world is in the way of brokenness. That's from Mayim Rabim. Remember, right?
But it was already broken in Tohu. No?
It was broken in Tohu. It's fixed in Tikkun. The Eibishter did that, and he left the three worlds to us. Really, this world is what was interesting. What are you and I trying to do? Put the pieces of the puzzle together. You and I can do that by virtue of seeing the godliness in the events that are happening and not seeing the randomness of it, seeing the godliness of it. Sometimes that's relatively easy. Sometimes that's extremely difficult. It just looks so random.
Shouldn't come the big picture first?
There is a big picture. It's called the Torah. There's a big picture also called Elam Hatzilas. It's all put together, the Seder.
Yeah, but before it was talking
Before Torah, absolutely. Before Torah, there's absolutely that whole reality hasn't come into being yet. I mean, that's all you're talking about in time. So there's no, that doesn't exist up there. Torah isn't something that happened. Torah is a state of reality that is constantly vitalizing the reality that you and I experience. The godly energy that you and I experience is coming down in an oifen of toyu. That's what I said. In a way of brokenness, of chaos. The world looks pretty chaotic, right? Oh, that's what toyu means, chaos. Okay, but you and I know it's not.
So what's the difference? The origin of chaos.
The origin of that chaos is that event, so to speak, called the breaking of the vessels. That reality will express itself as broken, in brokenness, not in fixedness. In fixedness, what do I see? The big picture. In brokenness, what do I see? Individual sound bites of reality. It's broken. I want to put it back together.
It was broken origin.
Toyu broke it. I don't understand origin. There's a place where that happened. Above Toyu, it's not broken. There's no brokenness above Toyu, so to speak. The Eibishter, what does this all explain? How the Eibishter allows himself to be revealed down here in this world. He allows himself to be revealed in a state of concealment and apparent brokenness. That's what you and I experience. What is it really? It's all him. There's no Tohu in reality, absolutely. I mean, there is. He created that way, but ultimately, it's all him. Okay, so see through the brokenness, see the big picture in the brokenness, and you'll fix the brokenness. What do you know when you open up the puzzle? It's not really a bunch of pieces. It's not really a bunch of 1,000 random pieces. It's really part of a big picture. So see the big, and when you pick up that green part, if you're a good puzzle maker, what do you realize? It's part of the tree. So I've seen the big picture. I know where this goes. It's part of the tree. This isn't green, that's some independent reality of green. This is part of a tree. Where's the tree? Oh, the tree is next to the castle. On the tree, there's a swing. Whatever. It's in my head already. I've seen that. Now I'm just putting it together. You can't put, I'm sure there's people who at a certain point, once they get good at puzzles, try to put it together without looking at the picture. But, basically, what do? You look at the picture on the box. That's the Torah. The Torah, and you and I couldn't possibly know what the piece of time called the 15th of Tishrei is really all about if we didn't have a picture, if we didn't have the big picture that tells us the 15th of Tishrei, take a green stick of lemon and live in a hut. Wouldn't have a clue. Right? All of a sudden, and then you and I take the green stick and the lemon and live in the hut, and we're just like, wow, this is the best thing in the world. There's nothing better than this. Give me 2 weeks of sukkahs and you can take Pesach back. I'm just happy, just let me sit in my sukkah all day long. Oh, wow. Nothing like it. Now, I took down my sukkah. Fine. If it weren't down, I walked into it now. Nothing. Nothing here. This was Makifim Dabina 2 weeks ago. This was like the holiest place in the world. It was like the base of Mikdash. No. Why? Because it's just take it down before it rains. Get it out of the way. So wild. That's how the world works. That little piece of time makes something completely different than it is before that piece of time or after that piece of time. How do I know that? God tells me. God said, now this is the holiest place. You can't imagine how holy. Shaking a lulav in the sukkah first thing in the morning after a nice warm mikveh. Wow. There's nothing like that in the world. Right? Somehow you're drawing down all of the bracha for the whole year, different directions, up, down, bring it to your heart. Wow. The al-chet that you said on Yom Kippur is now being sweetened by bringing the lulav to your heart, the same place where you went al-chet, you're now bringing a lulav. Wow. How would I know that? God tells me what that little piece of the puzzle is all about. It's a small little piece. Infinite in scope, but still. Okay, it's Rosh Chodesh, so we got to get in there and have a wonderful month. 2 days Rosh Chodesh. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, let me just do this for 1 second. Yes, okay. I just want to stop this.